That's right. 3 lessons we've learned as our life-changing business here in York turns 6 today. 6. So what are these lessons that we've picked up over the last 6 years? So we started in 2014. We started off with member number 1, who was Jane, and over the last 6 years we've built programs, we've expanded out to be able to help people all across Yorkshire and now all over the world. And as part of those 6 years, there's been a lot of exploring, a lot of testing, a lot of tweaking, and a lot of lessons have been learnt. And what are those lessons I want to share with you today? The 3 biggest lessons I've learnt from helping people to turn their lives around are these, okay? 3. There's 3 in total. The first one is, are you ready? The second one is the harshest critic that you'll ever meet. And the third is to do with simplicity. So let's look at these one after the other. The first one is ready. Are you ready? And the lesson here is that we've been able to get the best results from people who have been ready. Ready as in ready to really make the changes, ready to really commit to whatever program it was that they joined us for. Ready in terms of they had got to the stage where they were like just sick and tired and fed up of all the excuses that they'd been making, and they wanted to finally do something. So they had been making excuse after excuse from year after year about how this wasn't the time, they were too busy, they couldn't afford it, they had other things to look out for first or spend their money on, or the excuses like, I'm just going to get a little bit fitter first, or I'll just try and do X, Y, and Z on my own, and then I'll come back to you, etc. Right? Those people didn't get the results as long-lasting and as powerful as those who were ready. Okay? Those who were ready to make the changes, they came in and they got the best results because they came into our programs and they did everything that we showed them, because it's taken 6 years to kind of hone our programs, to tweak them, to improve them, to make them better, to make them easier to actually implement, because the stuff that we teach isn't really rocket science. It's not rocket science in terms of how we are basically there to hold your hand. There to hold your hand every step of the way. And the main reason for that is so that you haven't felt like you've been alone at all at any stage. Because the number one thing that most people come to us for is the fact that they've been trying to do things by themselves, or they've found that it's been too lonely to do it by themselves. So that's when they've turned to us, they've tried everything else, and they come to us and they're ready. They're ready because everything else they've tried hasn't worked. They're ready because they don't want to waste any more time, money or effort on things that don't work. They've realised that all the gimmicks, fads and diets and soul-destroying regimes and vomit-inducing workouts don't work. And they're at a stage in their life where they just want something to work, something that will save them that time, money and effort. So that's the first major lesson that I've picked up over the last 6 years of helping people to turn their lives around. The second lesson was the critic, okay? The fact that the harshest critic you will ever meet or come across is the person you see in the mirror. The person you see in the mirror is the harshest critic. Just yesterday, actually, I was talking to a client and it transpired that they themselves were their worst enemy in terms of the inner voice, in terms of the person or kind of like the chimp that sits on their shoulder that is chattering away every single day and putting you down, telling you you're not good enough, telling you that you can't do this, telling you you're not confident enough to do whatever it is. And in this case, it's to improve your physical and mental health. So the harshest critic is always going to be yourself. Because we're so hard on ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves, and it is about remembering that that is the harshest critic you will ever meet. And in the same breath, it's the simplest critic to quell, to quash, to poo-poo, to shut up even, right? I'm not saying it's easy, but it is simple in terms of making that harsh critic of yours step to one side, allow you to move forward, allow you to do the things that you want to do despite whatever the critic thinks. It's similar to when you're developing self-discipline. It's like you may feel motivated sometimes, you may not feel motivated sometimes. But discipline, the difference between discipline and motivation is basically, motivation is, or feeling motivated is when you feel like doing something, which can ebb and flow. Whereas self-discipline is something that you can take charge of, or self-discipline is where you do things despite how you feel. And the more you do that, the more self-discipline you produce. Okay, it's like me and my cold showers. I'm no way motivated to have a cold shower at 5:20 every single day. Some days I feel like, yes, let's do it. Other days I'm like, I wish I could just stay in bed and run a hot shower. But the self-discipline that I've been building over the last 200 odd days of this lockdown, this pandemic, has meant that that self-discipline in that particular aspect is really, really strong, so that I don't have to feel motivated to do it. So coming back to the harshest critic being yourself, you can very easily, very quickly shut that critic up. And once you learn how to do that, your world really is your oyster. As cliche as that sounds, it's like taking the handbrake off all of a sudden for you, because you then realize that you don't have to listen to those voices in your head that tell you that you're not good enough, that you can't do this, that, who are you to think that you can do X, Y, Z? Okay, so that's the second biggest lesson that I've learned over the last 6 years of being in business here in Yorkshire and helping people to turn their lives around. The third lesson we've learnt is simplicity. To keep it simple for you, because we're all in a similar age category or age group, in terms of we're all at least over 30. We're actually more like, our late 30s, early 40s now, maybe even later. However, it's about keeping things simple because we're all busy in terms of we'll have a lot on our plate. We've all got a lot of plates to juggle, and when it comes to transforming your life and turning your fitness around, it's actually about learning to potentially put one of those plates down, potentially put some of those plates down. Maybe it's even putting all the plates down and rebuilding, because it's much easier to put one plate down and then add another than it is to keep juggling everything that you have and then adding one extra thing. Okay? So where we're talking about the third lesson being about keeping it simple, it's about working out how we can keep things simple for your life. Keep things simple in terms of looking at how you live your daily life and seeing how we can tweak it to suit your daily habits, to suit your daily routines. So, you know, you're already getting up at X o'clock to get your exercise in or plan the day out or whatever. And then maybe you're getting the kids ready. You're running around getting the kids ready. The kids are then dropped off at school and stuff, and then you're back, and then it's like running around doing all the errands before the pick up again at around 3 o'clock, 3:15 here in Yorkshire. And then it's like running around after the Rugrats or doing the mum or dad taxi service for the rest of the evening, and then feeding and washing and putting them to bed, and then before you know it, it's the end of the day, and you're then like cracking open a bottle of wine and kicking back for the me time that you have in the evening before you then go to sleep and do it all over again. So it's like there's a lot going on. So how can you make changes that you can see yourself doing in a month, 6 months, a year's time, that you can keep up, that you can tweak, that you can change, that you can assess as you go along, so that these little changes compound over time to make sure that you have a better way of life. You feel better, you are happier, you're more confident in yourself just by doing these little things that add up over time. So keeping it simple is about exactly that. Keep it as simple as possible, because the minute you complicate things, the more you give yourself a back door, the more you give yourself justification and excuses as to why it's not going to work. Because if it's complicated, if you keep it complicated, then one, you're not going to do it, or two, you're going to find it very hard to implement it. Whereas if you keep it super simple, like, you know, breaking it down into little chunks that you can do every day, that's going to be so much more manageable and so much more sustainable over time than it is if you were to give someone, say, a 101 point plan, and you have to remember all of these things all at the same time, whilst forgetting that you're already juggling a lot of plates. So how can you slip in those other habits or change your habits so that you don't drop those plates and they keep up in the air? So they're my 3 biggest lessons that I've learned from helping people. I'm trying to angle this so that you don't have the glare. The 3 biggest lessons that I've learned from helping people transform their lives in York over these last 6 years. 1, feel ready. Be ready to put in the work and getting over yourself so you don't make any more excuses. 2, the harshest critic is yourself. And 3, simplicity makes such a difference, because it's the simple things they're going to make the biggest difference over time. Here's to the next 6 years.